Hey everybody, Pastor Vern here with your daily update for what day is it anyway? It is May 20th. It's Wednesday, 2020. One day closer being back together, and it sounds like that might vary from place to place, but we're working on it. We're working on it, and I'm encouraged that we are one day closer being together again. I'm encouraged that we are starting to put together some plans. But let's don't get ahead of ourselves. Let's don't get too anxious about it because we first of all have to be careful. We have to be somewhat cautious, and we have to, as in Wesley's terms, do no harm. So anyway, we've had another one of these cloudy streaks. Going to get a little rain maybe. One of those things that's been a little difficult for this whole time that we have been through this is that we've had a lot of cloudy kind of yucky weather. So that's hurt a little bit too. But remember that even though there's clouds in the sky, there's blue sky behind it, and it's going to come back to a time where we're going to see more of that again. And we just rejoice in everything that God brings us, whether it's clouds or sunshine or rain or whatever it may be, because we know that He puts this all into practice for us. Today, we've been talking about sin this week. We started out with original sin, then we moved to transgressions yesterday. Today, we're going to talk about inequities. That's a little another category maybe that we could kind of line up with transgressions. We talked about transgressions yesterday as not being a deliberate act necessarily, that it's maybe an act of neglect, maybe an act of not planning to do something, but that would be crossing boundaries that we don't think we're going to hurt anything, but maybe we do inadvertently. Now, inequities is different. Inequities is more of a malicious thing. It's more of an act that is premeditated. That it's is something that is actually kind of, for lack of a better term, mean. It's unfairness, it's injustice, it's unrighteousness, and possibly a malicious act of injury. Inequities, we hear that in some of our scriptural talk, some of our scriptural language. We also, there are some prayers where it talks about our inequities. The original word, again, comes from the Latin, which means unfair. Or maybe wrongdoing, crookedness, and so on, unlawfulness, unrighteousness, leveling acts with someone with malice in mind. That's kind of your basic Latin definition of it, as I understand it. But a lot of it has to do is it's unfair, it's unjust, but it's more menacing than that because it's planned. It's when one group of people, whatever the situation may be, has a plan or a mindset that they are going to be hold some other group down or back. That it's part of their plan to make sure that the folks that are in some other group do not succeed, do not have a fair playing field. Doesn't have the opportunity to have abundant life in a relationship with God, with the world, with whatever it may be. It's a little bit of a scenario where we would talk about years ago second-class citizens, where one of the great inequities that we know happened in our country was separate but equal laws. A time period where we had come to prescribe that maybe certain groups, whether they were racial, whether they were religious, whether they had some other connotation, everything can be the same, but we're going to stay separated. And the thing that really comes from one of those scenarios is that the group that's in power of the whatever groups we're talking about, oftentimes it was not equal. It was just not equal. those who are in power took the benefit of being in power. And if you were going to have something that was 100% for the one group, the other group 100%, what it often turned out to be is maybe the group in power would have 130% of the resource, and the other group would have 70%, regardless what it be. We've all seen, at least those of us who are a little older, have all seen the pictures of the drinking fountains, um, where there may be two drinking fountains in an establishment. One of them is labeled for one group of people, one is labeled for another group of people, and you can see by just how the fountains are configured, by the way the usability of them, and maybe even the cleanliness of them, that one group was being lifted above another group, and usually by that group that was in power. And so that's what we want to talk about today, was this inequity thing. It's something that even though I think as a society we've come a long ways, and we still have some inequities. We seem to develop new ones as we have new mixtures of cultures and habits and traditions come along. We tend to develop new inequities that we have to overcome. It's something that we need to be mindful of. Also, there is inequities in it's not just a racial thing. It's not just a cultural thing. It's also in the church. We struggle with that. Are there those who we prefer to have in our congregations over others? I know that's maybe something that not everybody thinks about, but it is a part of our church culture, and sometimes it raises its head. So, in all that, I just wanted to lift up this inequities thing today. I haven't got a plan for tomorrow yet, but excuse me, allergies are kicking up. But we'll come up with something, and we'll see you tomorrow. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other as best you can. Be kind to each other, and show God's grace in everything you do. Blessings.